Imposter syndrome refers to a psychological phenomenon where individuals doubt their accomplishments and fear being exposed as a fraud, despite evidence of their competence. The term was first coined in 1978 by psychologists Pauline Clance and Suzanne Imes, who observed it among high-achieving women. It originates from the Latin impostor, meaning deceiver, reflecting the internalized belief of being undeserving of success. In daily usage, it describes the persistent anxiety of not being good enough, even in the face of praise or achievements. For example, a successful professional might attribute their promotion to luck rather than skill, or a student might believe they fooled their professors into giving them high grades. Imposter syndrome is common across various fields, from academics to creative industries, and can lead to stress, burnout, and self-sabotage. While not an official mental health diagnosis, it highlights the struggle with self-worth and perfectionism in competitive environments.
I understand what you're saying, and I believe what you're describing is called imposter syndrome.
We all have imposter syndrome.
And again, pediatrician, not a psychiatrist, but it sounds to me like you're experiencing imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I think they call it imposter syndrome.
Yeah, imposter syndrome is a beast.
Those who are feeling imposter syndrome, the insecure feeling that they're not nearly as good at their job as their colleagues believe they are. And how did you stay confident, or did you, when you knew you were an imposter?
I was struggling with imposter syndrome, and I constantly doubted myself. The only problem is that it came across exactly the opposite. In fact,
We could not be taking care of ourselves and dealing with our own issues in your session. Like I talked about, like imposter syndrome or working too much, symptoms of burnout showing through. If you remember, I did this whole series on burnout.
Feeling it, but I really try not to be that way. And I think that, that feeling is real though, the imposter syndrome, of feeling like you don't have the knowledge base or haven't spent the time or don't know the vocabulary. And I would really encourage you to silence those voices in your head and just go for it and look at art when you have time for it. Read about art when you have time for it and feel confident.
They are, right? Like no one, imposter syndrome, for people who don't know, is this idea that thinking that you're a fraud and that people are gonna catch you and it's gonna be really embarrassing. The reality is nobody is thinking about you at all. No one is thinking about whether you're an imposter or not. They don't care. They're focused on themselves, right? So I think one of the ways that ego and insecurity.
So let's talk about how to overcome imposter syndrome, how to stop feeling like a fraud, and start taking those key actions you know you need to take, but you keep procrastinating.
Effects on our creativity, because the imposter syndrome tends to launch the threat response, the sympathetic nervous system, which I'm sure you've heard about. That's the fight or flight response, which launches adrenaline and cortisol through our veins. And when you're in a threat response, there's a fantastic podcast on iTunes.
I talked to Andy when he asked me to come here, and he was like, what do you want to talk about? And I was like, imposter syndrome, definitely. Like, I don't deserve to come and talk there. And he's like, I asked you. And so I'm like, I guess I'll show up.
Dismantling the imposter syndrome. Immediately raise their hands. Dismantling the imposter syndrome is a 3-step process.